What I want to talk to you all today about was, I'll say 20-ish top tips to becoming a better product professional. And there's more than 20. I'll go into a few bonus tips. There's really like a couple hundred if I went wild, but I won't go that far. We don't have the time for that. A bit about me. I've been in product-oriented stuff for over 20 years. I won't say how many more than 20 years I've been involved, but a lot. I've done a lot of different things: hardware, software, services, product management, product marketing. I started out my career as a cost accountant, so if you want to know about overapplied or underapplied overheads, I can talk about that. Actually, it's a great skill as a product manager to know finance. I've had a product that won a Technical Academy Award. At HP, we came up with a groundbreaking Dream Color monitor we worked with DreamWorks on. And a few years later, we won an Academy Award. They award Oscars for technical breakthroughs in various movies. And the Dream Color monitor was used in production for things like, I can't even think of the names now, the Panda. What was the Panda movies? Never mind.
Kung Fu Panda.
Kung Fu Panda 2 and 3, and then a few right at that. See, I couldn't remember it. I worked at a lot of different companies. I'm a proud cowboy. That's what we call a brighter shade of orange for you UT Austin people. Anyway, so the format is just some basic tips, and I'll talk about a few in more detail than others. First of all, is you got to own your career. That should be self-explanatory, but a lot of people, especially the younger crowd coming out of college, needs to learn that. The other thing is your identity is not your job or your job title. And one example of that is when you looked on LinkedIn and the headline says, "This is who I work for." And your identity should be different from that, is my recommendation. You should show your value to whatever space you're working in. Not, I'm product manager such and such for so-and-so. Nope. Yeah. A key, this is key. I learned early on was if you come up to your boss or your stakeholders with a problem, bring solutions, more than one, preferably. I like to say, and I learned from a mentor of mine, is he said, "I want choices. Bring me choices, and then we can evaluate which choice may be better. Which route that is." And that's same thing here. Is if you can bring me solutions, then that's something that we can make actionable and figure out which one's the best path forward. Personally speaking, you should build a habit, if you don't already have, of saying no to the things that hold you back. This is sort of some of the other presentations earlier today were talking about procrastination. This is sort of the procrastination type of thing. It's also, the corollary to that is, hey, today's a great day to start getting things done. And there's another theme about that a couple of sessions ago. Be a 360-degree leader. Manage up, down, laterally. There's a lot of stakeholders, and as you go in your career, you're going to have to deal with all those types. And it's, instead of managing, a lot of people think when you become a leader of anything, you're, a product leader and manager of product managers, you're managing down. You need to be managing up. You need to be managing across. Again, should be, if you've been in product management for any length of time, this is something that you learn to do. Learn the language of business. A guy named Jack Welch, who used to run General Electric when it was a behemoth, this was his saying, and this is a great saying, because just because I started out in finance, this is not why I say this. This is, again, and I think it was Nick earlier today from Amazon talked about how you put together like the business case, what I call it, of here's the reason why we need to do this product or this project, and show the financials behind that. So that you have both the product strategy and the financials to show that ROI and why that is. From a product leader standpoint, the other thing I mentioned to Nick later after his presentation was, as a leader, if Nick came up with the presentation he had, and then there were all the other Nicks in the company, I still need them. Just because ROI is good doesn't mean that's the one we need to go to, because there might be others have better ROI. And so when you think about finance, and the larger the organization, the more projects you'll have, you'll need to make those decisions as a product leader at some point. And it's always good to know, the data. Sure.
Some of the biggest ideas seem to have been started with less of a focus on finance, but more of changing the world. Even from Google or Elon Musk companies, they didn't seem to start out that way. Of course, at some point, finance becomes...
Yeah, you're right. Right. There are some, the product kind of birth, the idea of that, you're right. But at some point, and I think it's the bigger. Right now, I work for a 40-person, it's a scale-up company. So I'm not as inclined toward that. I'm looking for more inspirational ideas to help our customers and help us develop products that meet their needs. And so, eventually I've got to worry about the financial aspect, but versus when I was at HP, this was first off. If you do anything, you had a product canvas and at least a high-level financial overview of what you think that product could do. But it's just important to know the financial side of it. Never stop networking. Whether you're working or not, or unemployed or not, or in between jobs, always network. When you're in a role of product, and to the other points earlier, being a 360-degree leader, you're having to network. You may not know it, but it's better to be more overt about it so that you can establish those relationships better and improve those relationships and add to that as well. Again, these days, and I was talking to Brad from Carnegie Mellon, these days, folks that are coming out of college, they're having to do a lot of digital job search these days, just like anybody else who's, during my periods of being in between jobs, LinkedIn is it. Gone are the days, or Sunday morning papers had a whole job posting section in it. Those are gone. And so even the kids coming out of college the last several years have had to learn LinkedIn and how to network and how to search for a job from a digital perspective. And it's always important to keep that profile up, just like you should keep your resume kind of up to date as you go through your career. And there's another tip I'll talk about later about kind of a portfolio. Credit to Pragmatic Institute. This is one of my favorite tips. If you've ever taken a Pragmatic Institute course, Nihito, nothing ever happens in the office. Get out of the office, go talk to customers. And if you were next door earlier with Daniel, he had a great path on how you can create what I call like a customer network, customer advisory council. And this helps. This kind of has that same practice, but it's one of my favorite ones. And ever since I learned it 5 years ago, I've tried to live it as much as I can, and suggest you all do too. As I mentioned earlier, keep a portfolio of your case studies of the projects you've done. Have a portfolio. One example, especially if you're in product marketing and you have a lot of collateral that you've developed and written. In my case, when I was interviewing for product marketing managers, I'd ask, can you send me examples of your writing samples, examples of your writing and your collateral and things like that. And it's amazing how few people had that versus a graphic designer that has a portfolio with graphic designs. So there's no reason why anybody in product management should have some built up list of here's the things I've done. And whether from a either LinkedIn profile perspective or even in a resume, you can have that reference. If you have your own website or somewhere else, you can have this and continue to build on it. It's a great way to really talk about it, as well as, not just the products you've been successful on, but what might not have worked all that well and how you reacted to that. That's kind of another, that whole fail fast, and you learn better from your failures than your successes. So it's always good to have that type of portfolio ready to go. Always tinker with things. If you carve out some time to experiment with what you're trying to do, whether it's a process or a new product introduction or a new feature, those kind of things is develop this mindset of trying to experiment and tinker with your product when you can, which includes, it's surprising how many product managers I know that don't have a sample of their own product or have access to their product. One example is I've learned to do demos of my software, our company's software, and it's a very infrastructure oriented. It's not a website. It's a very technical oriented piece of software, and so I can't do it end to end, but at least I can get things going and start. So I'm learning the product as well as showing it off. Same thing with if you ever have hardware. You should have samples so that you can play with it. And back to the other one about tinkering with it, you have that at your disposal. Another skill, be able to articulate your skills. We've talked about the 30-second elevator pitch, or however long the elevator takes. You're in it. Have a way to develop your skills so that way, and articulate the skills. You have them, but articulating maybe is a whole other story, and I always advocate that you need to articulate them very well. Always learn, whether you're in year 1 or year 20-something or 30-something, you can always take an opportunity to learn. Also, learn to anticipate everything. Think through, back to some of those choices on a problem, like play in your mind what ifs. If this may happen or if that may happen in terms of, your product, your use case, the market, it always helps if you can kind of think, 2, 4, 6 steps ahead what may happen or may not happen. That you can then think through and prepare yourself to pivot if you need to with your product or your messaging or your customer interactions that you're doing. It's best to learn to anticipate. So a few bonus tips, because I've gotten to 20. Did you all count? And now I'm going to be sporadic. Always think outside in. I have made the mistake, and I've made a lot of mistakes, but I made a mistake one time where I had a product that grew market share at 80% year over year. 80%. We lost market share because the market grew at 110%. The market's growing faster than our product growth. We didn't think about looking at the market because we were so amazed at how fast our growth was. But then we lost share because we took our eye off the ball on what was going on outside our 4 walls. So a learning thing here is, perception can be reality. And if you take your eye off of what's going on around you, you don't want to make the same mistake I did when it comes to growing my product. Let me just skip on to... So here's another thing that I have coached a lot of people on. You are the product, and you can relate a lot of things in your career, especially if you're in a job search, of you are the product, and you can relate your resume, your LinkedIn profile, other collateral that can be your description of the product, because you are the product. And you're the product even if you're not looking for a job. You should always be aware, especially over the last couple of decades, right? We've seen the flights. And I'm sure over here, so many companies are coming in here to Austin. Jobs are aplenty in many cases. And so, if you don't have, the right positioning, or you're looking for something to do you've got to be ready for it. You need to make sure that you are the product. And you can apply a lot of product marketing skills to your job search. I did this because I presented to a group of product managers in between jobs. And so I threw this in is I see too many people, or I have, where they're interviewing and they get to a finalist and then they don't get the job, but they have not done any work to what I call keeping the pipeline full. And so then there's that, I got to start over again. So if you keep the pipeline full, for one example, I had where I didn't do this my first time I was laid off. And so I probably was not employable for an extra couple of months because I didn't keep other things going on. I would just stop to focus on the job and the interview, which you have to, but if you don't keep other things coming, then it's this up and down versus more of a steady state as best you can make it. And I know job searches, you can't control the steady stateness of the search, but if you can keep the pipeline full, and then when you get a rejection letter, okay, so be it, but I've got other things, other interviews I got to get ready for. So that's the point I'm trying to make here. So other than that, that's 20 plus tips to become a product professional, and obviously even besides just being a product professional. If you haven't already been connected with me, here are some of my contact info. So that covers my pitch. Is there any questions, comments, thoughts? Yeah, Christina?
So I'm relatively new to product.
Yep.
And the product that I work with is software. In my previous life, I was an instructor, so I had a lot of lesson plans, curriculum development, research projects. I don't know how to build a portfolio for my product outside of demos and screenshots of it. What would you recommend to start building a portfolio of my product?
Well, that's a start.
Okay.
I mean, I talked to a UI designer who's been doing it for 6 months. I'm like, just do sample wireframes. They may not have been wireframes you've done for a project yet, but create your own experience. And so she started just showing different wireframes of websites, just to start with, just to show the creativeness of what she wanted to convey. And then as she started getting contract roles, and she started building from there. And so I'd suggest that to you as well, is take what you have and then maybe create some other samples and then build from there. Anybody else? Sure.
I was curious, one of your slides, sell yourself. I missed the very beginning, so maybe you already did this. But can you give me what is your 60-second elevator pitch?
Mine?
Yeah, you.
No. No, I haven't done it in a while. But God, you're putting me on the spot. Good for you.
We all do this every day.
Yeah. It's just, I had to reset myself. I'm Andy Bowden. I'm currently the head of product at a company called Burst. I have been in the product profession for over 20 years. I brought to market over $2 billion of revenuable product, including something that had won a Technical Academy Award in support of a display technology for companies like DreamWorks and Pixar. That's just kind of quick and dirty. It's one of these things where I had it down rote when I was looking for jobs, right? And you're networking, but thanks for pushing the envelope. Right? How about yours?
Let's
throw it back at you.
Yeah, sure. My name's
Okay, good, good. Anybody else want to throw out their own? No? But what I'll say to that is, again, that's kind of part of pushing you out beyond your comfort zone. I'm trying to think, again, I've been popping in and out of different sessions. So this morning, someone talked about, getting outside your comfort zone, which I think I hear Dan Corbin say a lot. Anyway, it's just one of those things where, I'm not, some of us are introverts. How many came out of a developers? Well, any of you all been developers?
I've worked in engineering, but I've worked at the other side.
Okay.
Like sales.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
And
worked in university.
what did you do in your past to kind of push yourself and get outside of the engineering comfort zone into non-engineering?
There's some of us, and I think I'm an introvert by nature, so I find my comfort and my energy back when I'm by myself. Although I enjoy being around people, when I went to as a sales engineer for a while, I enjoyed that part too.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
a typical part of sales. I was not directly responsible for quotas, but just to do the design, and the sales guy was next to me.
Right.
So yeah, that translated very well. And I noticed a lot of good engineers directly become good product managers, the ones who always have the customer's advocate. So
Right.
anyway,
Yeah, and because one of the things I think about, because I've had developers report to me, and when I try to go hire one, I get the resume that's all it is a list of all the languages they know. And I'm looking for their impact. Tell me what you did to, that created this product. What did the product do? What was the outcome of that product? And I know it's really hard to do. And maybe because I'm not an engineer or a coder, so I'm not looking for, I want to know what languages they know. I've got an infrastructure software that's like, I need PHP mostly. Who knows what PHP is? But it's not something that goes in web development. I get all these web developers, and that's not my software. It's the plumbing of storage. So we have some really hardcore stuff going on. And so anyway, I try to relate, and some of the developers I have coached is I need them to translate what they know to what that impacted. Did it create better features? Did it create, and what are those features? And part of the other hard part is when you're owning your career, showing your value is, what was the impact to the company? Did it bring more revenue? Did it save cost? I think the more you go into a leadership role, that's your thought versus more the technical aspects of what you're doing.
the engineers who seem to grow into other roles usually are the most customer focused. They're always answering customer
Right.
emails, and they're in front of the calls, and so they have a bigger vision.
Yeah.
Usually they end up becoming technical leaders, or they progress
Right.
to other roles. Usually.
Yeah, no, that's true. I know in most large tech companies, at some point there's a track, and we had this at HP where engineers became more of a fellow, so it was they could keep moving up, but they weren't overseeing people and other engineers versus then the traditional people manager roles, and that's
Usually
great.
the sales guy used to become CEO, but it seems like a lot of
Yeah.
technical people are
Oh,
CEO.
yeah. Well, I think the more technical the product is, the more that needs to be true. I'm lucky because our CEO was an engineer in his early career, and then he became a salesperson. And he never told me how he did that transition, but he's very good, and he understands the technical stuff, and then he knows how to close deals.
Those are the best leaders.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
They understand both sides.
Yeah, versus I have one customer support engineer who extremely technically good, and I've asked him to be a sales engineer, and he's really hesitant, right? But I'm like, if he starts to talk to customers, and it's only been about 2 months, he loves talking to customers because he didn't realize, he never connected the dots, which I think is important to all this, is connecting the dots to what you're doing and what it means to your customers and the business. And so he's starting to really see the light and come out of his shell because he's extremely introverted. Anyway, any other comments?
There's something about getting out of your comfort zone, not just
Yeah.
at work, because it seems like we all have to keep doing more of that.
Yeah.
I've been taking, late in life, I've been taking classes in ballet and contemporary dance.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
been the hardest thing I've done because I don't know, rhythm and coordination.
Right.
I take a full, it's been 3 or 4 years, and some of these ballerinas, they've been dancing for 20 years. It is the hardest thing I've done because I've been in techie ballet most of the time.
Yeah.
But it's been
Well, that's interesting because at Christmas, when I was in school, I played the violin, and haven't played in 30ish years. And I got a violin for Christmas, just because I said, it'd be interesting to see what that would be like to play again, And I will listen to classical music, and I just play around with it right now. But I'm like, okay, I really need to get some lessons, but I haven't touched something like that in years, so it's different. But I think it also creates a creativeness. It opens the other side of your brain,
it really does.
and yeah,
My right brain is never fully
yeah.
developed, and
So there you go.
it really helps. And I don't know a better way of getting older because
Yeah.
it seems like
Oh.
the plasticity all comes back. And,
Right, right. That's great.
just trying to keep up.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great. We can wrap it up early. No one said I had to go the whole time to 4 o'clock, and I know, hey,
I think we're right on time.
well, yeah, that's true. 30 minutes. Well, thank you for coming, and I hope to see you all at 4 o'clock at the closing session, and then, of course, at future Product Camp Boston's. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.